Hello. Hello everyone. I'm checking to see if we're there.
I think we start off. It's only the third one we've done, but everyone is almost like this. We go, "Are we there? Are we on? Are we switched on? Can anyone see us?"
I know.
It's like we're both really surprised. We go, "Actually, we are. It's working."
Is it working? Am I there?
Yeah.
Hang on, let me
Gosh.
have a look.
So
Yeah, are we live? Oh, look. Yes, we are. I'm happy now.
yeah, happy.
Happy now.
Okay. Fabulous. Well, I can relax now. Then
Yeah,
Tina's doing all the technical stuff. All we got to do
yeah.
is just show up.
Dangerous to have me doing the techie things. That's why I married an engineer.
Yeah. Yeah. Good old Steve. Yeah, MacGyver. So, how have you been, Tina?
Oh, God. Well, I mean, there's a lot going on right now, isn't there?
Mm,
The planet, the world,
the
climate.
planet and the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. By the way, yeah, I didn't really welcome everybody to this Facebook Live to the AHA. Um, but no, seriously, I do want to know how you're doing, Tina.
Fabulous.
I love it. Yeah.
Fabulous. There's so many plans, aren't there? I mean, we actually had a business meeting face to face the other day for the first time in ages.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
got to sign the certificates for our latest group of licensed practitioners where they've just completed.
Yeah, it's been an interesting month. We got to see live people, folks, and some of you were there with us. We
Yeah,
got to actually reach out to people in a 3D world and
yeah.
hypnotize people. Do you know what? We even did the handshake interrupt. We've had to put a new step in it, haven't we? It's where you go like this, gel, and reach
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Look, notice the shiny analgesic, hand spray.
I think my favorite was when we were calibrating and instead of shaking hands, we were
Yes.
elbow bumping.
Is it a yes or is it a no through
Yeah,
calibration?
yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, there's been some degree of normality, hasn't there? Because I mean, that was just fabulous getting back in front of
I
a
can't
group.
wait to do it again. I mean this zooming is brilliant. It doesn't replace for me real live people in a room.
Mm. And I have to say, and I really can we mute this? And in fact, we can edit this out. I used to like 2D world. I realized how unsociable I was, but I do miss being in contact with people.
That's
I don't want that to
funny.
go out. Yeah.
I'm the one that's storing this, so I've
Yeah.
got that now.
Yeah.
We're in
So
trouble.
maybe I'm not as crabby as I thought I
Yeah,
was.
next time you're talking about being crabby, I'm going to be going.
Yeah, so we had a fabulous month. It was pretty intense because we were working every weekend with people, but it was great to see the progression people were going on the journey path. And we were joined by Kathleen, which was a rare treat. It was
That
great.
was fabulous to have Kathleen sort of streaming into our class to teach the meta model. We had a few little hitches with technology where the Wi-Fi at her end we had an issue with because of a storm.
Yeah, a storm and a few rogue wasps, which had to be dealt with. But it was great, and got some fabulous feedback. So that was quite a rare treat to have her join us and introduce people to the meta model,
Mm.
and they got it. Yeah, many of them really got it because we know that because the weekend after we were testing and checking, they were asking the right questions.
Yeah, they definitely picked it up. And I love the way Kathleen teaches a meta model because she anchors it as she's teaching it.
Mm,
Um, and sometimes when people are trying to think of the pattern when they're in the class, they give you her anchor. They can't think what the name of the pattern
yeah,
is.
yeah, but they they
And
they
they'll
leak
go,
the anchor.
it's,
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah, it's been installed unconsciously. Just the conscious mind's a little bit slower at bringing it back out. Yeah, retrieval. But it was interesting, wasn't it? Because the weekend after, they were asking just the right questions. I think that's important. That the questions let you know where people are at.
Mm,
I
it is.
remember there was a trainer years ago. I can't remember who it was specifically that said, "Oh, they're setting exercise," and I remember saying, "Oh, they're doing great. They're just getting on with the exercise." And they went, what have I said wrong? They're not asking any questions. I missed out some steps,
Yeah.
and no one's asking any questions. And I remember thinking, did you miss out steps? I didn't notice. I need to pay more attention to make sure, if someone's deliberately missed something out, that I'm paying attention to it. But the questions people are asking, they tell you how much they've understood. Yeah, they're checking whether they've got the understanding they think they have. And
they had the whole group that we had. They had some fabulous questions and some really cool breakthroughs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the breakthroughs just kept on happening.
And I love that timeline that we discovered that just went in a circle. I've never seen one of those before. I love it when you get something new.
Yeah. And there were a few people, it was interesting. We were talking about timelines, and it's totally relevant, by the way, because, the session you did in the membership group was about timelines. And there were some people, the timelines went to a month, 2 months, same place, a year, same place. Yeah, 5 years, same place, just in time, man. Yeah. What are you going to do for Christmas? I've no idea. I bet you book your holiday just before you go. Yeah, of course I do, because they don't plan beyond. And it's fascinating, isn't it? In a practitioner, you get to see people when they're not aware of what they know in NLP. They kind of leak a lot of information, and they're kind of just giving it away. It's like a huge laboratory for us to play and explore with people with.
Yeah, and the person whose timeline just did a circle in front of her. I mean, when she realized that's what she was doing, she had a huge breakthrough. And it's like, well, this is today, July the whatever, 2021. Well, where's July the whatever in 2022? Well, it's here.
Yeah.
Where's 23? It's here.
I mean, all I did with her was just experiment. I said, well, what happened if you just opened it up like a coil and it went round and like this? And, oh, I can see next year now, and I can see the year after. It was no longer all condensed into one place. One small change makes a big difference. And that's what I love about the practitioner. You get to explore with people before they've learned any NLP.
It's one of my favorites, the prac, just watching them realize their strategies, and what's in a strategy and how they do things, and how easy it is to actually edit what they do to improve what they do.
Yeah, and there's also something about to me, the distinction between somebody coming in not knowing about NLP and then learning a bit about it, where it opens up their eyes, they become aware of some things, but they're not coming from a place of, oh, I think I get all this now.
Yeah.
They're still in that curious open space, compared to some people that have maybe done 1 or 2 NLP practitioners. And they go, oh yeah, I've done NLP. In fact, when someone says, oh, I've done NLP, tells you they don't really get it. Because we've never, I don't know you, I'm not done with NLP.
No,
we're just continually learning.
Well, I'm still discovering things. I'm still learning new things from the people that I'm coaching and working with. And it fascinates me that I can be sitting in a course with Richard Bandler. I mean, I think it was the summer of 2019. I was sitting in the training room in Orlando with Kathleen Laval, and Richard started to do something on stage. And we both stopped and looked at each other and started looking intently at what he was doing, thinking, we've never seen him do this before.
Which is incredible, yeah.
And it's like, I've been sitting here for 20 years, decades and decades, and I've never seen him do that before.
That's really cool, yeah. And I mean, obviously I haven't been on the trainings for a few years now, but I always used to go in with this attitude of like a beginner's mind, knowing that I know my stuff, but being open to listening and learning for the first time. And the amount of times I'd be sitting about, in fact, you remember Jag, who used to be the head assistant before us. Yeah. He sat next to me once. He goes, what do you keep laughing at? I go, I keep hearing new things that I've not heard before. With a story that I've maybe heard 7 or 8 times. I go, never heard that before. I've heard the story, but I heard it in a new way because I'd evolved and my ability to process and understand had changed compared to what it was when I first started. Yeah. So yeah, never-ending improvement, constant, never-ending learning. So it's been a good week for you, then, I guess.
It
A bit
has.
crazy for
What's
everyone
your week
else.
been like?
I was wondering when you were going to ask. Well, do you really want to know?
Of course.
Well, I've been plotting and scheming and planning like you have, actually. We met on the Monday, and
And him on a Monday when the sorry.
well, the reason I went over to see Tina on the Monday, guys, is to sign the certificates for the people on the practitioner, and because we had a delivery of all our merchandise, our goodies, which we're sending out to those of you in the membership group that are
Yeah.
the lifetime founder
Got me
members.
there.
There's some boxes there going out. So
Oh.
uh, have you worked out who's sending it? It's not Hermes, is it? So just want to make sure they arrive. Yeah.
No, it's not Hermes, I promise.
So we met up to sign the certificates and to have a look at all the goodie stuff and make sure it's all there. And then we started talking, and like it was 4 hours later, we were mapping things out and being creative, because I think there's an incredible time at the moment. You know, I mean, in the UK, we are out of lockdown and we're about to go back to crazy normal. I don't want to get into the conversation as to whether it's right or wrong. Blah, blah. I'm not interested in having that conversation with people, because you know, every idiot's entitled to their opinion, aren't they? Yeah, whatever that might be.
Yeah,
we're all godlike, aren't we? You know, you either like Marmite or you hate Marmite, etc. Yeah. But there are incredible opportunities at the moment. You know, people are stressed, upset, concerned. People are trying to get back to normal. Some people are doing good and want to do great. From a coaching perspective, if I wanted to, I could go back to the days of having the conveyor belt and the revolving door and seeing people, you know, which I don't want to do. You know, now the revolving door spins around and sends them back, sends them someone else's direction. But that's what we were doing, and then that's really just spent the whole week. It's just ideas popping, looking from different perspectives, seeing opportunities, seeing gaps, yeah, and thinking, how can we be of service, and how can we, you know, make use of this amazing time in life. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. Yeah.
So busy. I mean, we've got some questions here. I suppose we should really look at these, seeing as we said that's what they're about.
Well, yeah, I mean, the questions, there's two forms of questions, aren't there?
Yes,
no, I'll rephrase that. There are the questions are being asked by two groups of people. One, the group of people who are in the membership site, who have seen the trainings for this month, and those that aren't. Okay, because the Facebook group is for both of those two groups. So maybe we should let those people know that aren't in the membership group, you know, what the trainings were about, just so there's some context to the questions. Shall we do that?
Yeah. So on the first Thursday, I took everybody through timelines, what they are, how they can be presented, and the things that you can do with them. I suppose that's pretty concise.
It's very concise. Okay.
Timeline
That's very concise. Yeah. It's all about time, so you kept it short.
Yeah. I kept it short, and of course,
okay.
I've got time. Time is. I mean, somebody actually gave us a lovely question that I will read out in a little while, where they have no concept of time. But of course, time is man-made. It doesn't really exist. We created time and a way of organizing time in our head to enable us to, I suppose originally it's to know when we were going to be planting seeds, when we were going to be harvesting. You know, when the sun went down, we slept. When the sun came up, we woke up. And now we need time for so much more, don't we?
Yeah, and it's the one resource we all have the same amount of, in terms of 60 seconds, 60 minutes, 24 hours.
We don't know how many moments of time we have.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say we don't know how much we have, but we all have the same amount of minutes and hours, and days. We just don't know the volume and, you know, the quantity of it. And I think for me, that's one of the most important things that I keep in mind about time, is we just don't know how long we're going to be on planet Earth for. And to me, that's not something to get grim about. It's to be really present and make the most of it and squeeze the juice out of every single day.
Everything out of every moment, every second,
Yeah.
Well, for yourself. I think nowadays people, especially business people, are expected to do so much more with less. So, I mean, I can remember when I worked for a corporation 20 odd years ago, I had someone who did my filing. I had someone that did all my typing. All I had to do was create stuff, attend meetings, deal with various things going on in the company. I didn't have to do the other bits and pieces, but I think nowadays everybody's expected to do all of that stuff for themselves, aren't they?
Yeah, and the resource that you had and were given, which were other people that you could delegate things to, has now been handed over to this little thing, to technology.
Right, yeah. And everybody's expected to be available 24/7.
Yeah,
because you email, and I'm always amazed that 11 o'clock last night, I had a client return the form I sent them that they're meant to be returning before we have our meeting. And they sent it at 11 o'clock last night. But of course, I didn't see that until 10 o'clock this morning, and I walked into my office.
And what time are you seeing them? 10:30 or something?
Yeah, it was 10:30. Yeah.
Yeah, so another just-in-time person. Yeah.
Yeah, they arrived at 10:30. And at that point, I've walked in the office. I've noticed that it's there. I've printed it. But I'm like getting ready for my day, and I got to sit down and look at it 10 minutes before they arrived, and I'm still looking at it and reading it because it was like War and Peace. And he said, "Well, I thought you'd have read that." And I said, "Well, when? Sleep?"
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's I've had that before where people are booked in for a program, like a year-long program, and they get my audit. So the audit is a snapshot of where they are, where they want to go, blah, 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 yada, 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 all the questions that, and I remember Richard saying it's not just the questions, it's what people don't say. So I'm looking for things. I'm looking for like the reality strategy, belief strategy, decision-making strategies. And the amount of times I get it just before, a day before. Yeah. And that's why, isn't it important to take time to reflect upon what's important to us?
It is important. Yeah. And so they sat there for 15 minutes while I continued to go through and get the information I needed from their form.
Yeah.
And so I think a just-in-time person.
Yeah, the timeline exercise that you did, I thought was great, was separating out different timelines. So it helps you as a therapist and a coach to not get caught up in other people's timelines. Have you got any other timeline tips that you use in your coaching? And I'm putting you on the spot there. So I didn't mean to. It just occurred to me. I wonder if, because I've not done that timeline, so I tried it out. And I went, okay, this is pretty cool. I like this.
Well, I came up with that years and years ago because when I first started to see people, I'd done my courses, and like a lot of people, when they set up their practice, I was still working. So I was seeing clients at weekends, and I was practicing with people in the evenings. And I found I had so much to keep track of in my head. And I needed to, I had a very responsible job working in the investment bank. And I needed to put that to one side. And I found myself taking my banking day and putting it over there so that I could focus on what was going on here. And then I remember sitting there one day and thinking, well, that's really cool. My family, I need to keep track of my family as well. So I thought, well, what if I have like this is my banking timeline, and this is my practicing NLP and working with people timeline. and I just put my family over here. So then I had 3. And to make sure nothing overlapped, I would bring them together last thing at night before I went to sleep. And I still do that. I bring it all together, and they're all color coded, and I have them all there. And then I can have a look and think about and see all the amazing things I'm going to do the next day, which then enables me to decide like when I'm going to get up in the morning. And then I put them all to one side so I can go to sleep. So nothing's in my head keeping me awake. And then I sleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, they all come back, and then they all separate out. And I've got the extra ones, so that when I'm working with somebody, I put all of their issues on my test timeline. And I got that idea from John Laval. He does that.
Yeah.
And when he was talking about that one day, I thought, what a fabulous...
That's a great idea. Yeah, I remember him sharing that many occasions, actually, and thinking, yeah, that's a great tool. It's a great approach.
Yeah, so
you don't get caught up. You're not associated with anything. Yeah.
So I can look at it. I can go around it. I can float over it. I can examine what's going to happen, how I perceive them progressing. But of course, I also use it, like after our business meeting on Monday, I was using that timeline. And I was running things up and down it just to check.
Yeah, where you were when I was sitting over there on the sofa by the Buddha. I was asking you questions. So, what are you looking at? I'm just running the timeline. Yeah.
yeah.
And then I went up to the whiteboard and just mapped it out up there for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those of you that aren't in the membership group, you just got a little snippet of what you're missing, because Tina's just literally just shown and mapped out her timeline exercise that she shared, and it's just one little part of that lesson. So no, you don't need to give anything else. You just gave a really great demonstration of timelines there.
And it's so useful, especially the sliding it all the way over there when you go to sleep.
Yeah.
So you're not laying there.
So does Steve get the timelines?
No, he's on the other side.
Take all these.
Here we are, sweetie. He says, I couldn't sleep last night. I was so busy.
I was thinking about your business. What's going on? Oh, fabulous. All right. So I'll briefly then just give those of you that are here that aren't in the Secret Engine Change membership group just a brief summary of what I shared with the group last week, which is taking them on a journey path of growing your business. So previously we were looking at, we've looked at psychology, we were looking at people, and we're going into the detail about your clients, really getting to know your clients and looking at it from the perspective of logical levels, starting to get a sense of who their identity is, how people see themselves, their beliefs, their values, and literally working your way down the logical levels so you get really more clarity on who the people that you serve are. If you can look through their eyes, see what they see, hear what they hear, and get a better understanding, then you know how to serve them. So there's just one other aspect to that which I'd like to add for those of you that are in the membership group. I would now, if you've done that work, and I know some of you have because you've been emailing us, okay, you've done that work, I would do a little bit of experiment with a DTI, a little bit of deep trance identification. So it's almost like you've now got a representative of who an ideal client is. You've been doing your research. You've got things that you've seen, you've heard, books you've read, articles, websites. So you've got this massive information of who this person is. Close your eyes, step into them, look through their eyes, notice what they'd need to see, what they'd need to hear in order to say yes.
There you go.
To you. Close your eyes, step into them. Oh, I can hear me. Can you turn that down?
You can hear you.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, I can hear that playing back. Yeah.
I would, yeah.
So you step into them and you look through their eyes, you hear what they hear. You ask really good questions, sort of questions you would be asking if you were interviewing your ideal 5-star client. Okay. So you get even more clarity. Now, what we're going to be doing later on as we take you on the journey path, because I know some of you have asked questions about marketing. We're going to be using this valuable information for your marketing later on. Okay. So that's in summary what we did in terms of knowing your clients. So we got some really good questions, Tina.
We do. I'm just checking, see if there's anything that's come up on Facebook.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I'm just going to have a look.
Yeah, I'm just looking there. So we have a question here. Is there anything someone can't do as timelines?
Sorry, is there anything someone can't do as timelines?
With timelines, yeah.
With timelines, bake a cake. I mean, I know you can. You can put it into. You use timelines to process.
I thought you can't kill anybody with timelines, but then I thought, well, actually, with my test timeline, I could actually run it through.
Yeah.
And I could practice to see if I could have the perfect murder.
I'm not sure what the question means, to be honest. What can you do? I mean, we've done past life regression with timelines.
Yes.
That was really cool. Yeah. I mean, we did a number of workshops. Some of them were absolutely bonkers funny. I learned a valuable lesson
yes.
About how important it is when you explain something to not prime the audience with the pre-frame. Because I was sharing a story about how I'd done past life regression with someone and they'd regressed to a cricket. Okay. So they'd gone back, they were a cricket hopping around, but they learned a lot from this experience, right? And we ended up people in the room who were frogs. And everyone seemed to become an amphibian or
yeah. Yes. Yeah. What do you do? Swimming.
Yeah. Just I've croaked it. Even in trance, it was very funny. So past life regression, future life progression. That's pretty cool. Where you go off into the future and turn around and look back at what it was that you're going to create, so you get some real purpose and sense of purpose of life. I'll tell you what was one of the really cool ones which we experimented with was when we did the parental timelines. Do you remember doing that with a group? So it was the first time I'd experimented with that, where we got people to go back and when they get to a point before they were born, and then they follow the maternal timeline back, and then they come back and they follow their paternal timeline back, and they get insights into their parents, which was interesting for people who maybe hadn't had a great relationship with parents because they'd separated, they disassociated, so they weren't caught up in it. They could observe, and some of them said that I now understand why that person was like that. Yeah, and there was even somebody who they'd never met their father. So we just ran a timeline and they went back and they kind of got a sense. It gave them a bit of closure about something as well. That was really cool, wasn't it?
There's the one thing that on one weekend when I was teaching past life regression, that I'd never done this before, and we'd never done it. So my demonstration subject was very skeptical, and I took him back in time. And he was in a lab in Paris working on a vaccine, on the TB vaccine. And he didn't know what his name was, but he knew the year. He knew exactly where he was. It was in the Louis Pasteur lab. And he explained beautifully how he was dressed. And he was very skeptical. So when that exercise finished and he'd come out and was back in the room, we Googled a person that worked on the TB vaccine at that time in the lab, and they could have been brothers. It was really strange.
Yeah, some of that is very.
It was really strange.
Borderline bonkers is my favourite word for the last month or so.
Yeah. And we've had people who have been cavaliers in the English Civil War, and they've known who they are, and they've Googled, and they found the person that they regressed back to. So there's been some very strange things.
Yeah. And another use for timelines, what can't it be used for? I mean, I guess we're looking at what can it be used for. But on the practitioner, that was really interesting. I was talking about anchors, just sliding anchors. Mm-hmm. In fact, I would share this with the group. I was at the back of the room and I walked forwards, and I noticed that as I walked forwards, the group went quiet. I guess they're waiting for me to come to the front. So I then walked to the back and the volume of the group went back up. And I said to him, watch this. And I walked to the front and they went quiet, went to the back. So I'm anchoring them to be quiet at the front. So I was about to train some sliding anchors. I thought this is a great, so it's like a volume control sliding anchor. So I got to the front and I started talking about anchors because I was going to do an exercise on changing personal history. And I was talking about here's the present, move back to the past. And somebody asked a question. And I reached into the question box and I had to put my reading glasses on. And I was just explaining, I said, well, there was a time in the past when I didn't need these. As an experiment, let me just try something. And went back, took myself back as I'm standing in front of the group and asked my unconscious to readjust my eyesight. And I could start to read the poster at the back. Now, it definitely sharpened up, but it was so far away that I couldn't read it clearly. Probably even when my eyesight was 20/20, it would have been a struggle. But things like that I find fascinating, using changing personal history to go back to a time before something ever happened.
Yeah, and I think it's also fascinating. You just remind me of something else, where using a timeline to take somebody back to being a very small child before they'd lost their eyesight or whatever, and them actually being able to read a book without glasses.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. I did a demonstration. It was actually in New York. So I was doing a training and lunchtime, this crowd came running back and they said, Steve. And it was somebody I knew had gone down to the Thai restaurant. And I knew she was allergic to peanuts and whatever. And we'd had lunch there a couple of times. And she was all puffy. She said, I've had an allergic reaction. Can you help me? I said, hold on. Do you need to get a paramedic? Let's just check. I said, no, I know you can help me. Can you hypnotize me and get rid of it? I said, close your eyes. So it was like a crowd and audience. And I just simply did. It was a form of changed personal history. It was the allergy cure. Yeah. I said, go back to the moment before it ever happened and asked her unconscious just to make the adjustment. And within a few moments, her face went down, the puffing just disappeared. And I'm thinking, that is so cool. Yeah. Yeah. When do you get the chance to try something out like that? You need an audience, and you need, somebody who's willing to give it a go, who's not on death's door. I think play with timelines, experiment with timelines. That's why we run a practice group. So we give you things to go away and practice and experiment with. What can't we do? I don't know. Let's go and find out.
No, yeah. I mean, when I read that question, I'm thinking, I don't know what I can't do.
Which is a good thing.
My brain doesn't work that way. My brain doesn't think, what can't I do with this? My brain thinks, what can I do? Let's find out.
Yeah, let's find out. And what can I do different?
Yeah.
And there's something else I want to say about that. And I think it probably relates to the same questioner. Okay. Because I look at something like that and I think, where can I take it from there and apply it into a different context?
Yes.
That maybe I've never used it before. Yeah, maybe I've never used, or maybe it's never been used before. Yeah. And I think that person, if I remember right, asked a question about how do you use this in business? In fact, it's to do with my piece. Yeah, getting clarity about knowing your clients. How do I use that in business? You go, well, I was talking about coaches, but everything we talk about, if it's directed to coaches, applies to any business. Yeah, it's pretty general. Yeah. So go and experiment with timelines. Find out what you can't do.
Yeah.
By proving that you can do anything. Yeah.
Surprise us. So here's a good question here.
Well, that one was good.
What is another good?
All right, stop. I'm being a meta model monster. Yeah, I'll shut up.
Somebody said something today. They posted something today about do you want my what is it, my belief cheat sheet? And I'm thinking, why do I want your beliefs? Free now, my beliefs.
My beliefs, cheat
sheet.
How good are your beliefs?
I like my beliefs. Don't need any. Right. So here's another great question. This person has asked this question previously, and I just thought it'd be useful to voice it here, because there are some people that will be watching us now that aren't in the membership group. So the question is, could you do a refresher course for updating people who have trained with yourselves and Dr. Bandler? So the answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I've attended 3
Would we?
Yeah, would we? Yeah, we could, but will we? I've attended 3 master practitioners over the past 16 years. I remember what to do when I'm on the courses, but would appreciate any ideas you have to retrieve the skills, sharpening up my skills to be conscious, competent. I can hear you saying, go through my manual, do the exercises. Yes.
Yeah, we don't need to say anything, do we? Because it's already implanted. Yeah.
Which I am going to do.
Going to at some point way off over the horizon.
When I finish my maths exam.
Oh, okay.
I
have relationship between finishing the maths exam and.
I have really enjoyed the masterclass and found it amazing. Thank you. We love you too.
Yes.
I like going back over things in a video format. Is there a way of going through the NLP techniques in a similar course in the future? Yes, there is. And you're in it because this particular person is part of our membership. In fact, they might be getting a surprise soon because they're one of our lifetime members. So every month you're going to get another little snippet of learning, just like we did timelines this time. And just like Steve's been going to be coaching you about finding your clients and building your business. So every month there'll be another little bite-sized piece for you to remember.
And there's something about, I totally get it. I mean, fantastic you've done how many practitioners and how many master practitioners, because, you know, the more we practice, the more we realize there's more to practice. Yeah. And there's more to create and there's more to discover. There's more ways to explore and to take a technique and go, what if I twist it and change this? What's the result? You know, but if you only just put your practice when you're doing your practitioner and your master practitioner, okay, that's not how you become accomplished. You take one thing and you apply it outside in the big wide world. The world is a laboratory. And I would look at something like that and I go, well, why wait till, you know, I look at that and go, well, why wait till your maths exam's over? Why not do something about accelerated learning? Do some self-hypnosis about, you know, being confident and your brain being able to retrieve. Use the techniques, go through your techniques and apply them to something that's important now. Put them into practice now and find daily opportunities to put what you know unconsciously that you seem to think are in your manuals, but not in your conscious competence. Bring them back to your conscious competence by applying them. I
also have another piece. Now, she remembers when she's on the courses. So when she's in the training room, she remembers.
Yeah.
So of course she's anchored.
She's anchored it.
Yeah. But I'm wondering what the difference is between when she's in that environment and when she's thinking of applying them elsewhere. I mean, I know that there's a huge belief here, sweetie. I mean, I know who you are. There's a huge belief here about memory and learning difficulties. So have a look at those beliefs and the complex equivalence you've got running around this. The information's there.
And I'm sure she can recall what it's like to be in that room and that environment, to be in that mindset, and then anchor it and bring it back to now.
Exactly.
There's so many things that she can do. Yeah. But practice makes better. Yeah. I think the people that I see that are, they're more accomplished, they're more advanced than others. But the ones that aren't talking about it,
they're doing
it. They're putting it into practice. They're doing it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that talk the talk, but aren't really walking the walk. Yeah. So she's got this whole reservoir and catalogue of information. Just find simple ways you can bring it out and put it into your daily routines. And it will all start to generalize and unpackage.
So I have another interesting question. I'm currently reviewing my business strategy. What's your advice about designing packages And how much do you charge for group courses in comparison?
Okay. I always love it. It's like on a training. We always say, oh, they're asking just the right questions for the next bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so is this somebody that's in the membership group?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next month, I'm going to be looking at exactly that subject. Looking at what's called the value ladder, where, and it's like building an engine for a business. Yeah. And very few people actually build the engine. They're struggling to get the aircraft off the ground. They haven't really constructed the engine right. They've done the maths properly. So putting packages together, I think, is important. I do, yeah. Whether, and not just for coaching, but for any type of business, because one of the most challenging things in business to get is to acquire a client. And I'm not saying it's challenging, but it's probably one of the most challenging. Yeah. So when we get a client, we want to be of more service so we can be of service to them, and it's a win-win. We get paid for that. Yeah. So by having packages, it means we keep helping them to grow and evolve. So I think it is really important. The other question about pricing comes down to two things. First of all, how much do they value what you have to offer, and how much do you value what you have to offer? Yeah. And this is why we did the prosperity mission the other month, because we wanted people to get clear of any financial limitations or thresholds or beliefs that might be holding them back. So if this person has gone through the prosperity mission, I would hope by now they don't value their own value. Yeah. That shouldn't be an issue. But you still need to explore, how do you provide best value? And I also think it's something where you kind of test it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the model I liked was I'd charge something for a package, I'd get paid and went, I didn't charge enough. Okay. And then I go, okay, I need to put it up. Okay. And then you put it up and you go, I'm still a little bit dissatisfied. You still give a great job because you've got the deal, but then you push it and you go, okay, now I'm comfortable with that. Yeah. Now it's a win-win. And then as soon as I get comfortable, I also like to then get uncomfortable with being comfortable because I want to make sure I haven't hit a threshold. Yeah. Because there's nothing to say I couldn't have charged that much more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's quite a bit there to reflect upon for this person. But yeah, you're right on track. We'll be going into a lot more detail next month. I think packages are a great thing. What do you charge? Go and find out.
Yeah. I mean, I love it when people say things like, well, I can't charge what you charge down there because they're sort of in the Midlands or the north of England or Scotland, and people don't have that kind of disposable income. But I have people coming to see me down here from those places.
Yeah. Well, I actually had an experience of this. It was an uncomfortable experience about a year ago with one of my clients. He's based in Spain, and he said, my wife would like to coach with you. And I was kind of busy, and we never got round to doing it. And I said, just having a conversation, it was a coaching session, actually, not a conversation, a coaching session. I said, how's your wife doing? So she's found a coach. You want to go have a look at this website. And this person was charging, we both charge reasonable rates, but this person was charging 3 times what I was charging for half the amount of coaching time. Okay. And it really shook me. I went, okay, I need to review my values because I said, so your wife went with this person? She said, yeah, it's her money. She's quite happy paying that. And I realized that I was still operating with some financial limitation threshold and still being in a bit of a comfort zone, which is why I've gone back and reviewed things and pushed things again, a little bit more. And by the way, doing our prosperity mission helped to do that. So I think it's important not to mind read what other people out there are willing to pay. You experiment, and your diary will tell you when you've kind of you've reached the threshold. When you get busy and you're too busy, increase your rates again.
Definitely. So the next one is all about time. It's about time. So they're thinking timelines. What can you do with them? What's been your most profound impact? And what's been your most creative uses? Now, they also mention here that they have no concept of time, which is an interesting one because it reminded me of somebody many, many, many years ago on one of the NLP courses, and they were on a BizPrac. And they said they don't have a timeline. And they got quite upset at assistants trying to get them to come up with a timeline. And when the assistants were doing the usual questions of, well, where is tomorrow? Where's Christmas? Everything was like, it's here. It's here. And then when I chatted to her, and I said, well, how do you know it's there? What's there? She had slides, little still slides, in one of those, those circular things that you put slides in.
Like a carousel, yeah.
That's it, in a carousel that you project. And so we adjusted the projector so that she could project the things she had to do in a linear fashion, depending as to their priority. So we created a projection of a timeline, and she loved that. And then we had another carousel that we designed. So when she'd done that particular slide, it just went ka-chunk into the other carousel. So the other carousel was her past.
That was interesting. It'd be interesting to find out how she knew what sequence to have the carousel of slides.
Well, she prioritized. So the slide would come up. Well, she learnt to prioritize. She just had all these slides here.
Right. Okay. So prior to that, they were all over the place.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
All these, and she called them like slides, and they were all here. So I got her to look at each one and prioritize. And every morning, she reprioritized her business. So she would then juggle them in the carousel, and then they'd pop up, and she'd do that one, and then that would go chunk over there. Then the next one would pop up.
Yeah, I mean, I worked with somebody a couple of years ago. It was the mother of a coach, and she'd been sectioned because she didn't know what day of the week it was, didn't know what time of the day it was, couldn't take pills, etc. So we did some work, and it's because I knew this person. I said, "Yeah, I'll work with your mum." I wouldn't have normally worked with this person because that's like stuff from a long time ago. I've done therapy, but I said, let's experiment. And actually, as we were talking about it at the beginning. She said, I think you understand this more than the people that in the hospital understand. I said, well, I think it's to do with the way she's lost track of how she processes time. Yeah. I said, because I've seen that with some of the people that I worked with that had PTSD, where they get, because they're in this heightened stress state, everything seems to be moving so quickly. Yeah, they're hypersensitive. There's no time to do anything. So it's almost like the opposite of when people go into stress when things slow down. When they're in this chronic stress, it's almost as if things speed up.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I need to drink some water. And what she'd done is she'd gone through this really heightened stress time, and her brain was no longer able to separate time out. It was all like really close together, and all I got to do is just relax, go back to the time before all the stress things happen.
Yeah.
And it released it, and then we just locked that back in, and she was fine. And in fact, the work you did with me last February, so yeah, I remembered it was February, yeah. After I'd had my mild stroke, when I'd lost track of time. I knew where I was, I knew who I was, but I didn't know when I was. So I was very present in the now, which was blissful and still is, because I still experience it. I wasn't thinking about the future, I wasn't thinking about the past. But if you ask me when now is, I haven't got a clue. I had to check. Yeah, it was my way of verifying, is it Tuesday at 2:00? I just knew it was sometime now. So that was an interesting experience. And that was triggered, I think, by what was my brain process a very stressful experience. So I'm not saying everybody that isn't aware of how they process time, it's to do with stress. But I've seen that before, where a lot of people with PTSD, and even my experience, it's like the system kind of just can't handle it anymore. So let's just be two things: either present, so you don't care, or everything's happening at once. Yeah,
you're right. It is a stress response, or one of the stress responses, and I think it is also a response from PTSD too. Part of our fight or flight response is to make them ever present.
Yeah, ever present.
That moment.
Yeah, and then that's a good phrase. It's like they're ever present, very ever present, and that may be too much for the system to do on a prolonged, chronic period of time. And yeah, I must admit, I was so blissful. Yeah, everything was just like so zen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I remember pulling up outside your place and thinking, why am I here? And I had to check my phone and go, oh yeah, it's Thursday, 2:00. I've arranged to see Tina to sort out my timelines. So yes, it's something for you to practice. And I think also it can be challenging for people from the inside to see it's a bit like seeing your submodalities. Yeah, when people first get into NLP just beginning, they go, well, I'm not sure where the submodalities are. I'm not sure where the pictures are or my internal dialogue. But from the outside, you can see what's going on. Sometimes it's easier externally to process, where someone's timeline is. Where did you get that image of yesterday from? Yeah. So, find someone to play with, whoever asked that question. And you'll have a timeline somewhere.
You will, yeah. Even if it goes round in circles, like our young lady.
Yeah.
So we have one last question here from Marco in Roma.
You always leave Marco's to the last, don't you? Well, the last 3 times you've done that.
So here is Marco's question.
I like Marco's questions. They're normally off field. They're normally nothing to do with anything we've done.
That's why they're at the end, because they don't actually, they're not concerned with the other stuff we're doing. So
love it.
In your experience, the hypnotic gastric band technique, efficacy, simplicity, and reactions from clients, suggestions to make the experience as effective as possible. And is there a need to calibrate with the client maybe a month after the treatment? Personally, I tried to give suggestions to slow down the chewing speed, and I suggested leaving the spoon or fork near the plate between a bite. So he wants to know tips of how we would do a hypnotic gastric band.
Okay, well, I have a recording that I did of a hypnotic gastric band, which I thought was pretty good, actually, because I put in all sound effects about being wheeled into the operation room, and then the band being tightened up. So they probably weren't very authentic. Okay, that's probably not what happens. And then coming and the doctor's talking, going, well, the operation's going very well, So we kind of simulated the gastric band, because there was a time when gastric band became a big thing, a big fad, and Paul brought his out. Now I've listened to Paul's probably about 20 times just because I've listened to it to edit the online program we've got. It's very effective. It is very effective. I think it's like most sessions. I think a lot of it, the efficacy of it is going to be impacted by the pre-frame, how you set things up. So let me give it a bit more clarity on what I mean by that. We're going to simulate an operation. Okay. So your body will know, it will seem as if the stomach is as full as if it was, as if it's had a gastric band. So we're giving, all the prep signals in the pre-frame. We're doing the work before we actually get to do the work. I think that's very effective. And the last bit about afterwards, I just think that's good practice, don't you? It's good customer service, good aftercare. How are we doing? But again, I'd be careful how you frame that. I don't want to go, how are you doing? Are you still, is the gastric band still in place? Has it slipped? So
tightening. is it working for you, or do we need to tighten it?
Yeah.
That's the thing I'd be asking. I mean, I haven't done a hypnotic gastric band for ages. The last time I did one, I actually had a little bottle of like disinfectant that you could spray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To recreate the hospital environment. Yeah.
So that while they were going into trance, that would be squirted, so they'd get the smell of the disinfectant of a hospital, and I wouldn't have them in a very deep trance and fully associated into the fact that the operation was going on. I wouldn't have the sound effects. I mean, I think smells in hospitals are really strong triggers, so I went with that. I didn't have the sound effects of doctors talking in the background, etc. I do know somebody, all they do, they're in Harley Street, and all they do is hypnotic gastric band sessions.
Yeah, I know someone does something similar. So that's probably the same person. Yeah, and they
in a gown.
White, gowns. Yeah, so we're talking about the same person.
So the person who wants hypnotic gastric band actually undresses and puts one of those hospital gowns on, which has your bum sticking out the back because they never ever do up properly, and then they get wheeled in, and the hypnotist is there with a white coat like a doctor. Yeah.
But there's something else as we talk about this. I'm not saying this is true. Somebody coming in asking for a hypnotic gastric band, there's got to be something going on where they have a belief that is really going to work.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be asking for it, let's let's give it a go. Yeah. So I think in terms of efficacy, there's an element of, in fact, I remember Paul found some statistics. In fact, they're in the little booklet that comes with his hypnotic gastric band, where someone has researched the efficacy of the hypnotic compared to the real, and you get better results.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's something about being so congruent about this, so you have rapport with their beliefs that this has got to be worth doing. Yeah. And you probably don't need all the staging. Yeah.
No, you don't. You could.
Yeah.
Now, Gloria, some of you will know who Gloria Hammett is, some of you won't. Gloria does stuff with Steve and I as well. And a few years ago, Gloria weighed almost 300 pounds. No, 400, almost 450 pounds. Now, she's not even 5 feet tall. So she was almost as wide as she was tall. Now, she wasn't interested in losing weight. That's not what she wanted to do. Unfortunately, she had an accident and she needed a hip replacement, and they refused to operate on her unless she lost weight. So as part of the weight loss weekend I was training, Gloria came in and the students installed a hypnotic gastric band in Gloria. And she's lost about 16 stone now. So she's had a hip replacement, everything's fine. And she's lost more than half her body weight. She's still overweight for her height.
She's done incredible. Yeah. But I think there's also something else about the other bit he's talking about the chewing and the slowing down. If you think about it, most people, when they're overeating, it's because it's emotional eating or it's unconscious eating. So they're either eating so quickly that they don't go, oh, I'm full up. They go, oh, I'm really full up. Yeah. So they're very much unconscious, or they're emotionally eating. So they're eating really quickly, so they get this endorphin rush. Oh, now I feel good because I've eaten something that's comforting. Yeah. So if we slow them down and actually get them to chew it, which is the basis of Paul's weight loss program, it's become conscious of an unconscious process. Chew it, slow it down. Make all the noises. Yeah. And then the body has a chance to go, I'm giving you the signal you normally ignore. Yeah. So if you've already asked the body, which is what the gastric band is to amplify the full signal, slowing it down with that means they get a chance to listen to it, because even though you're giving them the gastric band, if they're still eating quickly for comfort reasons or just out of habit, because it's like, then it's not so easy to hear that full signal, whether it's a real gastric band or a hypnotic gastric band. You know, with a real gastric band, they still have to slow down because they could rip it. Yeah, they could,
well, or they'll be sick.
Or they'll be sick. Yeah,
or they'll be sick. They will actually vomit.
So Marco, I would add that into the process. Yeah, and I say I don't work with remedial clients anymore, but we used to train people in what was my hypnotic diet program. Which I developed before Paul did his, but it was very similar. It was like smell the food, taste the food, slow it down, interrupt. When you get the full signal, you're done. The gastric band is you're really full. That's enough.
I think it's also those 2 bits in. That they eat consciously and they're associated while they're eating. Because one of the things that Gloria used to do when she was eating was she would eat unconsciously. She wasn't in her body while she was eating. It was a bizarre thing to watch. I mean, the amount of food that she could eat in one sitting, I couldn't eat in like 2 or 3 days. And it's because she wasn't there.
Yeah.
And the hole that she was trying to fill was a psychological hole.
Just a question. Next month, we should have checked this out before. Practice in your practice. Are we doing addictions and compulsions next month? Can you recall?
Yeah, we are. We're going to do OCD.
Are we doing OCD? All right.
Food.
Well, why don't we ask people? Those of you in the group, ping us messages. Let us know what you prefer. Yeah.
So we're doing addictions and compulsions next month. Do you want food? Do you want substance addictions, or
would you like a substance addiction?
Would you like a substance addiction? Would you like to be addicted to a substance or an activity?
I'd like an obsessive compulsive, please, but just not a disorder. Yeah. Can I have an obsessive compulsive about I'm living an amazing life? I'd appreciate that. Yeah?
I have one of those.
I knew you got the strategy for that. Yeah.
I have one on books as well. I'm an obsessive compulsive book person.
Yeah. So you're an obsessive compulsive book buyer, or you're an obsessive compulsive book reader? Because there's me too. Yeah.
I have to read them. They don't go on my bookshelf until I've read them.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Well, look, I'm just aware of time. We said we're going to do an hour, so we've got to keep to our word. We want to wrap things up, but let's let people know that on June the 22nd, so we're talking about next Thursday, aren't we?
July the 22nd.
July the 22nd. Timelines. I've just lost a month. So we've got John Lavelle. Yeah. NLP means business. So you've got questions for John related to business and NLP, let us know them because we're going to send them to him. And I'm really looking forward to that. And the details are in the Facebook group. Go over to the Eventbrite page. I don't know about you, Tina. I think another day and then we'll just put the ticket prices up. What do you reckon?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, so get to it. Yeah, don't sit on the fence. Don't procrastinate.
And this isn't going to be on Facebook, guys. This is going to be on Zoom. So you will need to book your ticket on Eventbrite, and then you'll get a link to come and join us in the Zoom room.
Yeah, in the Zoom room. And this will stay in the Facebook feed for a few days until we've edited it, and then we're going to delete it from here, and it will be available in the membership site. So, don't know about you, Tina?
Yep.
Time to go home.
It is. Time to go home, guys. Live long, prosper.
Yeah, live long and prosper. Thank you for being here if you're on the Facebook feed.
And thank you for sending us your questions and contributing.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, keep them coming.
Yeah, definitely. And we hope to see you when John's on next week.
Yeah. Be well. Bye.
Well, guys. Bye.